St. Thomas will say, in effect, we are called to love our enemies because we're called to love everybody, and there's no grounds for exclusion of another human being from that love, at least while that person is on the surface of the earth. And we don't know as to the identity of anybody in hell at present. Except for the Satan and his evil minions. So the idea is that you're called to love. It's a universal call to love.
Yep.
And that enemies fall within the bounds of that universal call to love, and there's nothing sufficient to exclude them from that universal call to love. But then, like you said, you can't hug every convict. All right. You can't physically hug every conflict because we're limited to this time, to this place.
That's right.
So then the question is, which enemies am I supposed to love? And St. Thomas will say we need to be prepared in spirit to love this or that enemy when called upon to do so. But how do we recognize the opportunity?
Yeah, well, I think also, so this is the flip side of the dispositional issue. We started with the sense of an enemy has to be intentionally disposed to or acting against you, right? And we could say, like, we as friends who love enemies have to be disposed to. So not just like if forced to, we'll love that person, but disposed to love that person if given the particular circumstance such that loving would be for their good.
Yep.
Right? So in a situation where you have criminals, for instance, the judge loves the enemy, right? The person, enemy of society, the judge stands in a particular relationship to society, but loving that person does mean, of course, enacting justice, right, for that person, because it's good for that person to have this sort of thing, assuming that all the other conditions have been met for such a meting out of justice. But for us personally, since most of us aren't judges, I suppose, it's the inner disposition to be open to someone actually being a friend, someone who is on our side as opposed to opposed to me, right? The kind of sense of existing in the world amongst those who are on board with me or in line with me or have similar projects, right? Because they're all persons seeking God in some capacity. And it's that they don't yet know it. So it's not so much they're an enemy of me, qua me, right? They're an enemy of themselves, qua their own kind of hindrance to the good life, I take it, right? If they were doing this podcast, it'd be a different story, of course. But for those of us who have Christian revelation and try to live it out, we do know the truth of what people should be. And so they're enemies really more to themselves. And that allows one to move from like a stance of vengeance or something, or like stance of against, to more like a doctor's stance, a sense of trying to help someone, right? A sense of pity, a sense of mercy, right, to the enemy. And I think that's when, and it's hard to do because, of course, passions get, inflamed in us. But if we believe in the teaching of St. Thomas and the Church, then they're most enemies to themselves, right? And God wants them to be reconciled to themselves and to us. And we have to be disposed to do whatever seems prudent and right in the situation to do, which doesn't mean everything in your power at any given moment if you have other obligations and such.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm sure you can come up with some concrete cases of
I think
what this would look like in the average person's ordinary procedure of what it means to keep the enemies down and hope to love them.
Father Bonaventure.
Yes.
Do you prefer the Jurassic period or the Cretaceous period?
Ooh, Jurassic period, because I don't know what animals are in the Cretaceous period. Wait, are those little shell thingies?
I don't know what you're referring to.
The Cretaceous period?
No, that'd be a crustacean period.
Are we talking Cambrian explosion?
Can't rule it out. Subscribe to Godsplaining.